So, my grandmother passed away a few years ago, and for a long time after that, I just kept thinking about all the things I never asked her, questions I figured we still had time for. So I started this channel to find the people I never got to ask. Her name is Dorothy. She is 97 years old. She grew up in rural Ohio, raised 4 kids, worked as a school nurse for 31 years, outlived her husband by 16 years, and she agreed to sit here with me today and say the things most people her age have kind of stopped bothering to say. I am 27. I thought I was doing pretty well, Thought I had things figured out. She had a few thoughts about that. Let's hear what she has to say.
The first thing, and I want you to really hear this one. The things you keep putting off are not going to wait for you. I know you know that. Everybody knows that. But knowing it and living like it is true are not the same thing at all. When I was 27 years old, which is the same age as the young man sitting behind that camera, I had a list in my head, not written down, just in my head. Things I was going to do when I had more time, more money, when things calmed down a little. I was going to take my mother to see the ocean. She had never seen it, grew up in Ohio, lived in Ohio her whole life, and she had this, I don't know, this quiet wish about it that she mentioned sometimes. Just mentioned, never asked for it directly. That was not her way. And I kept thinking, yes, we will do that. We will get down to the Carolinas or somewhere. We will do that soon. She died at 71, heart attack, very sudden. She never saw the ocean. And I am 97 years old, and I still think about that trip we did not take. I can see it. I can see exactly what it would have been. The two of us in the car, I would have done all the driving. She did not like to drive on highways. Stopping somewhere for lunch, her face when she first saw the water. I can see it so clearly, it almost feels like a memory. But it is not a memory. It is a regret. And those are very different things. A memory is something you had. A regret is something you were going to have. Whatever you are going to have, go have it. Do not wait until you are standing here at 97 realizing that the distance between a plan and a regret is just time you did not use. Now I want to tell you about a certain kind of loneliness, because nobody warned me about this one, and I think it is very common and very quiet, and most people carry it their whole lives without ever giving it a name. You can be surrounded by people who love you and still be lonely. I was not a lonely person in the ordinary sense. I had Harold, I had my children, I had colleagues I liked, I had neighbors, I had my friend Eleanor, who I will tell you about in a moment. I was rarely alone, and I was lonely. There is a kind of loneliness that comes from never letting anyone see you completely. I was all my life very good at being capable, very good at being the person who handled things. At work, at home, in the family, I was the one who kept things together, who figured out what needed doing and did it. People relied on me, and I am not going to pretend that I did not like that. I did like it. But what I did not do, not for most of my life, was let anyone see the parts of me that were not so capable, the parts that were scared, the parts that were still grieving things from decades ago, the parts that had let go of some dreams so quietly I had nearly forgotten I had ever had them. I wanted to study botany when I was 17, plants. I had books. I collected specimens. I pressed them and labeled everything in Latin. I was quite serious about it. And then life went a different direction, and I put those folders in a box in the attic. And I never mentioned them to Harold, never mentioned them to my children, just put that part of myself away and got on with things. I am telling you now, a stranger with a camera, because sometimes the stranger is the only one you tell. My friend Eleanor, I had known her since our 30s. We had lunch together for over 40 years, through our children growing up, through our husbands getting old, through all of it. And when Eleanor was dying, this was 1998, I was 78, when she was in the last weeks of her life. I found out things about her I had never known. A child she gave up for adoption when she was 19. A first marriage that lasted 8 months that she had never told a soul about. Things she had been carrying alone for decades. I sat at her bedside and I thought 40 years. I sat across from this woman for 40 years, and I do not think she was hiding from me. I think we were both so practiced at being fine that we never quite made it to the part where we were not. Do not do what Eleanor and I did. Find someone you can be honest with, all the way honest, not just the parts of yourself that are doing well, the other parts too. The parts in the box in the attic. It is not weakness. It is the only way out of that particular kind of lonely. I want to tell you about the morning Harold died. He had been unwell for a couple of years. His heart, he was 81, so it was not the kind of surprise that comes out of nowhere. We both knew roughly how things were going. He died on a Wednesday in March. We had had breakfast together. He was tired. He had been tired for a long time by then. And after breakfast, he went to lie down. And I washed the dishes. I remember washing the dishes. I remember thinking about whether we needed more coffee. I remember thinking I should call the pharmacy about his prescription. And when I went to check on him, he was gone. He had just gone. And I have thought about that morning for 16 years. I have never fully made peace with the fact that I was washing dishes. I know it makes no sense. I know there is nothing I could have done. He would have gone the same way, whether I was in that room or in the kitchen. I know all of that. But the image I have when I think about the end of Harold's life is him in that room and me out there thinking about coffee. I am not telling you this to frighten you or to give you some kind of terrible awareness that you carry around with you always. You cannot live that way. It would drive you mad. I am telling you because of what comes before. In the last years of Harold's life, when we both knew things were winding down, we had a habit. Every morning after breakfast, he would sit in his chair by the window. He refused to read the news on anything except an actual newspaper. He was very firm about that. And I would be doing things around the house, and every so often I would walk by his chair and we would just look at each other a second. Nothing said, just I know you are there. I am glad you are there. I did not know when those looks were happening that they were going to be what I missed most. Not the holidays, not the trips we took, those looks. Your life is mostly made of ordinary mornings. The small, repeated nothing moments that do not feel like anything while they are happening. Those are the things. Those are what you are actually building. Those are what you carry. Pay attention to them now while you have them, because you will not know which ones matter until they are gone. You are wasting some of your life right now. Some portion of your time and energy and attention is going to things that will not matter to you when you are sick or old or sitting with someone you love who is dying. I know that is a hard thing to hear, but I spent decades not hearing it, and I wish someone had said it to me more plainly. I spent years worrying what people thought of me, not close people, not the people whose opinions should have mattered. Neighbors, colleagues I did not particularly like, people at church. I worked very hard at managing what they thought of me, and I built quite elaborate, quite unconscious strategies around it. I spent years worrying what people thought of me, not close people, not the people whose opinions should have mattered, neighbors, colleagues I did not particularly like, people at church. I worked very hard at managing what they thought of me, and I built quite elaborate, quite unconscious strategies around it. Every person I sat with at the end, and I sat with many, many people, not one of them, not one, brought up the neighbors. Not one of them said, I wish I had been more careful about my reputation at work. Not one of them said I spent too little time worrying about what people thought. What they said was, my children, my husband, the friend I never called back, the words I never said because I kept waiting for the right moment. I remember a man named Gerald. This was maybe 1987, 1988. He was 64 years old, which feels very young to me now, and he had lung cancer, and he was not going to recover. He was a businessman, very successful, very controlled, the kind of man who did not show much. And in his last weeks, he became very, very agitated about something. It took me a while to get it out of him. It was his brother. They had had a falling out 22 years before this over their father's estate. A land dispute, some money, the kind of thing families tear each other apart over. And Gerald had not spoken to his brother since, had not tried, was too proud and too hurt and too certain he was right. His brother was still alive, in Michigan somewhere. I said to him, Gerald, do you want me to help you reach him? He said, it is too late. Too much time has gone by. I said, Gerald, you have a phone on your nightstand and your brother is living. It took him 3 more days to make the call. 3 days of me quietly suggesting and him finding reasons why it was not possible. He made the call. I was not in the room, but I saw his face afterward. I saw him when I came in to check on him that evening. He died 4 days after that, and he died differently than he would have otherwise. I do not know how to explain it better than that. He just died differently. 22 years. And a phone call he could have made any time. The stuff that feels urgent at 40, at 45, at 50, it just falls away like smoke, because that is what it was. And I am not telling you something you do not already know. I know you know this. But there is a difference between knowing something and rearranging your life around it. I am asking you to rearrange your life around it. One more thing before I get too tired. I have been thinking since I turned 97 about what it means that I am still here. My mother died at 71, my father at 68, Harold at 81, Raymond at 43, and here I am. I do not have a secret. I eat reasonably, I sleep. I have been lucky in some ways. Mostly I think it is just luck, and I try not to make too much of it. But I will tell you what I have done with the extra years. I have tried to say the things I was too careful to say before. Last year I called my daughter Susan. She is 68 years old, and I told her that when she was small, I had not always given her what she needed, that I was stretched so thin between work and Harold and Raymond and everything else that Susan, my easy one, my quiet one, had gotten less of me than she deserved. And I told her I was sorry. She cried. She said, Mom, I have been waiting 40 years to hear you say that. 40 years. I had that conversation in this chair. It took maybe 15 minutes, and I had let 40 years go by before I had it. Do not let 40 years go by. Whatever the conversation is that you are avoiding, whatever the thing is that you have not said to someone because it is uncomfortable, or because it makes you feel vulnerable, or because you do not know quite how to start. Have it this week, this month at the latest. Because I am 97 years old, and I promise you this, you will not run out of reasons to keep putting it off, but you will run out of time. The life you keep meaning to start is already happening. It has been happening this whole time, and it is going faster than you think.